Philosopher, I have a question for you, if I may.
Uh, sure, you may.
Okay, my question is, um, do you believe that like science, science only tells us how physical things work, right? And do you think that science is limited? And if not, then why do anything exist at all? Like how do you explain that? And I'm not saying that you say God, but how do you explain those things that you don't know that exists? Why
First
they
of all,
exist in the
we are
first place.
not able to explain the things that we don't know whether they exist or not. We cannot explain such kind of things. Science has sure limitations, but that doesn't mean anything. That only means science has limitations. And yeah, what else?
Okay, so if science has a limitation, then doesn't that mean that it doesn't explain everything?
Sure, like it's not able to explain everything yet. But so what? That doesn't mean someone else can explain it better than science.
Okay, but shouldn't that lead you to believe that since you're only limiting it to science, your understanding, doesn't
Yeah,
that mean that you're limiting yourself in
mm,
understanding everything?
but don't you believe that we are also limited?
Yeah, yeah.
So that means we are limited. Science is limited, so we are limited already. I'm not limiting myself. I'm already limited by a lot of things.
Right. But but it doesn't explain why, right? Like for example, science
Why?
uses laws. It does not explain why those laws exist,
Oh,
why they're
okay.
mathematical, why they hold the universe, why
Yeah.
their gravity exists.
Okay. But we already agreed on that science has limitations, right?
Right. But
Okay.
why are you
So,
limiting
That
brother, I
yours?
proves
think
But my question is
that proves like at least this statement science has limitations, and you said science cannot explain those things. Okay, that sounds like an evidence that science has limitations. Okay, so
right. But what about the things that it cannot explain? Like it cannot explain why
okay.
subjective
Can
experience
I say
exists.
something in
I'm
this matter?
sorry,
Right.
I'm sorry, but can you wait a little bit more, Cosmic Racer?
Sorry.
Can you wait
Yeah.
a little bit more? Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Sure.
Yep.
I guess my question is, we know that science is limited, but what about those questions that we have, the hard problem that we have, as they call it, like why subjective experience exists, why red feels like red,
These are
why the inner,
questions. Okay, so what? These are questions, and
like what our life means. Like
oh,
science
okay.
depends on only on logic, and but it cannot explain why mathematical truth exists.
Okay,
Or
yeah,
things.
but we agreed on that science has limitations. Science cannot explain everything. We already agreed on that, right?
Right. So
Okay, so that means we have questions that we cannot answer. Period.
okay, but shouldn't they be answered?
Like it's better if we can answer, but if we are not able to answer, so why should we cry about that? I know that I cannot answer those questions, and I know that I'm limited the way that you know also. So we agree on that. We are limited. Science is limited. So, and we also know that there are many questions unanswered. We even can claim that science cannot even answer some of them, even in the future. Okay, so what? That only means what it is right now for humanity. That's all.
Yeah, but I feel like, don't you think they are important question? What
Sure.
consciousness is, what morality is,
Sure,
right?
like that's why like in philosophy all those questions are questioned. They try to reason on those questions because it's important for humans, and yeah, we are dealing with those questions. That doesn't mean we have good answers or solid answers. But so what? Like if we don't have an answer for a question, or if we know that we cannot answer a question, that only means that's the case. Sure, we might be wrong about our statements also, but that is what it is. You can't
But I feel
suggest if let's suppose like your intentions are different right now, that you mean, hey, wait a second, science cannot explain but religions can explain. Are you going to go that part?
can you repeat that? You're saying the science can explain what? Sorry.
Okay,
So
science is not able to explain those questions. Do you think anyone can explain those questions?
I think that they can lead us to the truth, but I don't think that they can 100%
Okay, but
prove.
forget about them. Okay, like we understand they're limited. Science is limited. Do we
Right.
have someone else, another concept or method that can answer the question?
There is like first
So
cause, for example. I think that's another explanation,
first
right?
cause, what do you mean?
Have you heard of the explanation of first cause?
Link from
Do you know?
where?
Do you know what first cause is?
You tell me what's first cause.
Okay, so the first cause is philosophical explanation why everything exists. So everything that begins to exist or is dependent and must ultimately trace back to something that is uncaused, that is independent and necessary. So, for example, universe, when the Big Bang started, we know from general relativity the singularity happened. There was a starting point. We know by the second law of thermodynamic that the energy is finite. So there was a starting point. So we are saying that
Wait. Fine. Energy is finite.
yes, according to second law of thermodynamics, the universe is itself is finite. Uh,
That's the second law of thermodynamics.
No, it's not.
It's not.
And also, there are no cosmologists that are saying that. That's
Yeah,
another thing.
yeah. Like you have some misinformation, my friend. Maybe you should correct those information. But like hear me out. That may sound like a good argument, the first cause argument. But there is first causes argument, which comes from me, philosopher. I'm joking. I don't know, but I have never heard it before also. But I do claim that first causes can also be a thing, and that violates a lot of religions that you know. If you want to appeal to some religion, you should be aware of the consequences when you say that there can't be infinite regress. So if we accept, even if we accept that there's no infinite regress, that doesn't say that there's only one first cause. There might be a lot of first causes, and there can be a lot of causes coming from those first causes later on, and there can be a very long chain, and then maybe we reach this universe. And this can be the case, and it follows at least one thing that there's no infinite regress, okay? And there's a starting point, but in this scenario, points, not one point. So, and that again, that's against a lot of religions. So, and that can be more complicated. But like, you can include a lot of scenarios if you go like that. Like as I said, there can be a lot of chains to reach from the first causes to this universe. Maybe there are billions of causes between, and we don't have evidence for that. We cannot prove that that's the case. We cannot prove any of those scenarios is the case. We don't have any good evidence for any kind of statement here. Even there is first cause, you can't prove that because there might be first causes, not first cause, and there can be a lot of causes after that. That's
so
complicated.
so so I think what I was trying to say about the I think so. Do you agree that universe had a beginning? I guess that would be my question. Like
Oh,
time and space, and in terms of second law of thermodynamic, I was talking about it related to like entropy, right? That is always been increasing, and so therefore the universe cannot be eternal, right? So, for example, usable energy decreases, right? The second law says the usable energy decreases,
I'm
and the
sorry. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. I still have suspicions that you don't know about those laws properly. But
How,
let me check the second law of thermodynamics. Okay. Okay. Can you repeat again what you were talking about? Second law.
that second law in simple English is that things naturally move from order to disorder, and usable energy always become less and useful over time. So without added work, everything naturally gets more messy and runs down. So this idea of second law of thermodynamics is basically stating that the system that we have is finite. You know,
System
because
is finite.
yeah,
No, but you cannot derive such kind of like if the like there was order in the first place. That means there was order in the first place. That's all what it means. You can't
yeah.
say that
So
there was nothing. Like you're literally saying that there was an order.
yeah, so the argument of the that supports the first cause is that if entropy has always been increasing, then the universe cannot be eternal. That is the argument.
Universe cannot be eternal.
If the
Uh,
entropy has always been increasing, then the universe cannot be eternal. So if the universe is not eternal, then it must have a beginning. So whatever has a beginning
okay, yeah, but when you
exists
say there's a
requires a
beginning,
cause.
you can only prove that there's a beginning for the increasing entropy. You can't say that there's a beginning of the universe. You can only prove that that there's the beginning of the entropy.
What about the universe? What about the Big Bang, right? The key point is the space, time, matter, energy all begin at the Big Bang. So anything that
Uh,
begins to
I
exist needs
disagree.
a cause.
I
Sorry.
disagree. Like I only agree that the part where the space time begins to exist, like space you
Yeah, the
begins,
universe has
time
probably
begins.
always existed. The Big Bang is just where it expanded.
No, but then we have the cosmic expansion, the Hubble's law, which explains that galaxies are moving away. So universe is expanding in every direction. So if everything collapses into a single origin point, right? This explains if you go expansion backward, everything collapses into a single origin point. This
Okay.
point marks the beginning of space, time, matter. This
Yeah,
supports that the universe has a single beginning.
yeah. Like that point is where the energy was collected, right?
Right? Yes. Yes.
And
I
energy
think
was
I think
there. You can't say that there was no energy, according to what you said.
No, but
No.
everything started from Big Bang. Energy also started with
Yeah,
the Big
when you
Bang.
say everything started from the Big Bang, like the Big Bang that you refer is that there was energy, okay, in a single point. It was so dense, so small, whatever, but it was there, and it began to expand. That's the part where we call it Big Bang.
No, but according to
Okay.
modern physics and cosmology, energy did not always exist.
I,
Energy
I, I,
began when the universe began at the Big Bang.
I'm not
That's your
sure
no,
whether.
no. You can look it
I'm
up
sure that
because
that's 100% wrong.
no. Energy and matter are all connected, equal to mc squared. Space and time begin at the Big Bang. The laws are governing energy also begin at the Big Bang. Yeah, you
Space
can look.
time begins doesn't mean energy begins. Like that doesn't follow.
No, no. Energy began at the big when the universe began.
So you're saying there was
Look,
nothing at all.
nothing at all. Yeah, there was nothing at all. Energy began at the Big Bang. Let me look at the peer review study of
Okay,
that.
so you believe things can come from nothing.
That's not. That's no. I don't believe in that, and that's the explanation of the first cause. The first is did the universe
First
came from
cause.
nothing? Did the universe came from nothing? Did it create it itself? Did it create it from something created, or did it create it from something uncreated? So if it was something came from something created, that is infinity regress. Did it create it
Um.
itself? That's a contradiction.
Okay,
How
let me
can
ask
something
you.
exist and not exist at the same
Okay,
time?
let me ask you. Do you believe that the universe, the Big Bang, has 5 causes, and those 5 causes has 10 causes, and those 10 causes have only one cause, and that one cause doesn't have any cause? This is your belief?
No, I think that I think I think there's a first cause that started everything.
Yeah,
So
but
that is the first.
I just showed you that the first cause. You didn't listen what I said.
Sorry, say that again. I'm so
I
sorry. Say
said
that again.
the Big Bang, I mean the universe has 10 causes. The 10 causes have 20 causes. Those 20 causes has only one cause, and that one cause doesn't have any cause. And everything started from that one cause.
That is correct. That
So
is what I
is this
think.
your belief?
Yes, I believe there's a first cause. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. But like the first thing that I said, well, and the second thing, they were different. They were not the same things. I just put a trap. Uh,
First cause
doesn't
is
matter.
God. It's
Yeah.
I said I believe there's a first cause that started everything, right?
Okay. Okay. What about first causes?
First causes, like multiple causes.
Yeah, why not? If there is a cause, there can be another cause also
But then you go back.
coexisting.
But so you're saying that something created?
No, 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 no. I say that there are. Let's say there are 5 things at the beginning uncaused.
Okay.
They are the cause of everything.
But if okay, so I understand your question now. Because so first cause by definition is uncaused, necessary, is independent and unlimited. So that is the foundation of. So if there were
No, it
two
doesn't
or
mean that.
more,
It doesn't mean
okay,
all those things that you said. Uncaused
okay,
means uncaused. You can't say that like other things. You cannot
oh,
like attach all other properties without justifying. Like, oh, where those rules are coming from? Yeah, I can understand that something uncaused means it doesn't have a cause. That's the only meaning of uncaused. But if you're gonna attach more properties, you have to justify all of them one by one. So when you say
okay. So okay,
independent, what do you mean by independent? Its
because
existence
if
doesn't depend on other things? That's what you
right,
say? Okay, no
yes,
problem. No
if they are
problem. No problem.
independent, if they are
No problem.
independent, each would have parts or attributes that others do not. Those differences require
If
the
they're all
explanation. So
what?
anything that requiring explanation is not necessary. Therefore, a first cause must have no external explanation and must be cannot be multiple entities. So that contradicts.
You should repeat all those things you said.
Okay, so what is the definition of the first cause? It's that is uncaused, is necessary, is independent, is unlimited. It is the foundation. So if you had
How do
two
you
or
know
more,
how do
then
you know it's unlimited?
how do we know it's unlimited? Because
No,
it's not dependent on anything,
it's not
and
dependent.
and it's outside of the time and creation.
It's outside of the time and creation. That's why it's not limited. How do you know it's not limited again? Like what if it's not alone? So it can be limited if it's not alone.
Because any limitation would require explanation. Anything that requires an
Eh,
explanation is not necessary, and
yeah,
anything that is not
limitation.
necessary.
Stop! Don't gishkalop. Don't gishkalop. So it's not. It's limited because there's something else coexisting, and that's the explanation. You say that if there's a limitation, then there should be an explanation. I'm explaining that it's limited because it's not alone. So I am in a room which I'm not alone. I'm limited by the next person. What's the explanation? That I am limited because there is someone else in the room. So that's the explanation. So if there are 2 things at the beginning, you can't say that they are unlimited, but so they can limit each other. But
Yes,
still they can exist without a cause. They can be uncaused causes of other things.
okay. If it had limits, it would depend on something else, right? To
Depend
determine those limits.
depend what? We're talking about its existence. Its existence doesn't depend on other things because they exist without a cause. So their existence is independent. But if you're talking about dependencies about other things, sure, they might depend on other things, but that's not our topic. Our topic is their existence. So by
Yeah,
definition, they're uncaused, and by definition, they don't have any cause to exist.
yeah, but
Their
they need to be,
existence,
but they need to be independent too, right?
for what? Their existence is independent. Yeah, that's true because they existed without a cause. Nothing caused
Yeah,
them.
right. So if something has a limit, the limit comes from something internal or something external.
Yeah, but
So
again, you are not clarifying. But I was clarifying the limitations. Okay, so there can be
okay,
later on limitations caused by other things because they are not alone.
but if they're limitation, then they're not the first cause, right?
If they
How can
have
they
the
be?
limited, like, no, it doesn't follow logically. So you can't say that the first causes don't have limitations. You didn't prove that.
Okay, if the first cause cannot be limited, if the first cause is limited in power, knowledge, and will, then what made it a limited? A limited in the first must be imposed or caused. So if something is imposed
No,
a limit, it is
no,
no
no.
longer independent.
Coexistent things can like interact, can limit each other also, but it doesn't violate that they are uncaused existence. You are conflating many properties. You're mixing them together. That's why it's confusing to you, I think.
No, because look, because any limitation requires an explanation,
I
right?
just
First cause.
I'm gonna mute you.
Okay.
I'm gonna mute you because this is the place where my nerves are not working properly.
I'm just trying to understand what you're saying.
I just explained 3 times what is
Okay.
the explanation for the limitation.
Okay. Can you explain it one more time in
Let,
simple
let me
words?
let,
Oh,
let me let
oh,
me let me give you another example.
okay. Okay.
So there are 2 people in a room.
Okay.
So do you think that they can limit each other?
Yes.
Okay, but just because they can limit each other, that doesn't mean their existence was limited. They exist somehow. Let's suppose that they're not brothers, sisters, okay? That they're coming from different parents. So just because they're inside that room together, that doesn't limit their existence. Sure, like if they want to kill each other, that's another kind of limitation. But their existence doesn't depend on each other. They exist, they coexist in the room. It didn't depend on each other. And imagine that they don't have parents, okay? They magically exist without any cause, uncaused, okay? They exist and they don't have any cause. So still they coexist. And again, like their existence can limit each other in different ways. For example, if they act, if they react, yeah, like those things can be limited. They can limit each other. But just because they already existing without any cause, that part, existence part, wasn't limited, or being uncaused property. That's the property, like they exist without a cause. That's not affected. You can't
Okay.
change it.
Okay. Got it. Okay. So what about if two independent beings can only be different in something that makes them different, right? So that's something it's limited, right? So for example, one
Something is
has
limiter.
yeah, so one has a power A and one has a power B. What
Okay.
made A equal to B? That
Nothing.
difference from
Nothing.
so
Nothing. Those properties, like they exist, and you can say that they necessarily exist like that. They're uncaused. You don't have to explain their properties. Like they might be different, and you can't say that like they are different because of limitations.
but so you're saying that there's no difference between those two causes? Is that
I
what you're
didn't say
saying?
that. I said they can be different. Just because they're different, that doesn't mean the difference is caused by an external thing. They're uncaused. They exist like that, and their differences are not affected by someone else, or that they're not designed by someone else. They exist by default. It's X and Y by default. That's the default thing, right? You said that this must be the case. Like there must be a starting point. Yeah, the starting point is X and Y, and X and Y, as we say, they're different. Why they're different? So you don't even have to explain that because like they
Okay.
exist like that without any cause.
Got it. Got it. Okay, so if there are two beings are different, something different must make them different. Okay, so let's imagine there's first cause A and first cause B. Both are uncaused, both are independent, both are unlimited, but somehow different, right? So
We didn't say
then
they're unlimited, like they can limit each other. That's what we said many times.
okay, they can limit each other.
Ah,
Then if they are limited each other, then they how can they be uh unlimited then?
who said
So
that they're unlimited?
okay, so you're saying they can limit each other.
That's what I said, yeah, many times. That's why I told you that you have to like justify each property that you attach to the first cause, because first cause, but like you're saying uncaused cause, uncaused cause only means that it doesn't have a cause. And further than that, everything that you bring into that thing must be justified to be claimed. Like if you want to claim those things, you have to justify those things.
But first cause cannot be affected by anything. If it can be
First
limited,
cause
then
cannot
it
be
can.
affected. Why not? Why
bec-
not?
Because if it can be limited, then it's not the first cause. So, for
No,
example, if it
false,
being
false, 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 false. So you're creating a rule. First cause cannot be affected. You're creating a rule without justifying. Like if first cause is not alone, if there are first causes, then they can be affected by each other.
yeah, so being A can limit a being B.
No
B is not
problem.
a B is not unlimited. B can be affected. B can be restricted. So
Yes, they
B
can be.
so okay, so B's power depends on an A. So therefore, B is not the first cause.
You
Because
can't say
likewise,
that just because they can affect each other. You can't say that. Imagine like those two people example. Okay, they enter the room at the same time. So you can't say like a person is the first person in the room. They entered the room at the same time. So they're the first people in the room. Okay. And they can limit each other. They can affect each other. So you can't say, therefore, B person is not the first person in the room. You can't say that. Even if they affect each other, change each other, whatever, limit, doesn't matter. It doesn't change the fact that they entered the room first.
right, but they are still limited, right? If two
So
of
what?
causes can interact, resist, limit, oppose, and act on
Yeah,
each other, that means they exist in the same work. They exist in the same metaphysical
yeah,
reality.
there's no
So
any
if
rule suggests that the unclosed causes are unlimited. There's no such a rule. You're creating a rule. Most likely those rules are coming from religions. Probably you believe a God exists and you believe that this God is eternally powerful, unlimited, and many other things. That's why you buy all those properties and you want to implement in the first cause concept. And that's not fair. You should justify all those properties, as I said.
yeah, because if something is uncaused, nothing can impose a limit on it. That's the argument. So if nothing
That's
imposes
the
limit,
claim. That's not an argument. That's the claim.
then but so if so a limit is so limit is always the result of cause, right? So every limitation comes from genetics, environment, laws of nature, external
Yeah,
force.
but that cause is for the limitation, not for the existence. Again, as I said, you are confusing different concepts. So uncaused cause means it exists without a cause. But other things, limitation is can be caused by other things. But limitation has a cause, not the existence of, think we said X and Y, right? So X exists and it doesn't have a cause, period. That's in the pocket, right? But if there are other causes for other properties, for example, limitation has a cause. What's the cause? It's another thing that exists. Okay, that's possible. Why not? We're not questioning that. But just because they are limited in different ways, it doesn't mean that they don't. I mean, it doesn't mean that they have a cause to exist.
Okay, so you're saying there's a limitation within the cause, so
You can
that would
say that.
require huh
Sure, you can say that. Like you
okay
said that.
so you're saying that this would require so because the limits are features, boundaries, or condition. This is the crucial distinction, right? So you're saying there is a limitation within the cause, but that existence cannot be necessary, right? So
Why
because
not?
a being that exists necessarily without a cause, without a dependence, but a limitation cannot exist without an explanation. So limitation don't just happen, right? So every limit we know
Oh,
exists
but
because of a reason.
yeah, but we explained that like some limitations. So now now you are confusing again two concepts, which is you you said, hey, this X lack those properties. That's a limitation. I don't see it in that way. Okay, but that's an internal limitation. If still you want to call it limitation, okay, let's call it limitation. I don't have a problem. I mean, I don't say that in that way, but let's, for the sake of argument, let's say that it's a limitation, okay? But that's an internal limitation, and you can still say that it necessarily exists like that. It's uncaused, it exists like that, and that's by default X is like that. Okay, that's X. You can't change that. I mean, it was like that. But other limitations, okay, can be caused by other things. And again, other things, what we said, other things which exist, which coexist.
Got it. What about then? Okay, then that nature requires an explanation, right? This makes
Which
the being
nature?
the limit imposed internally by its nature, right? So this makes the being contingent, not necessary. So again, this is not the
Being
first cause.
being contingent upon what?
Yes. So the limit is
No, it
imposed
doesn't.
internally.
No, like that. Those internal limitations, like as I said, I don't want to call it limitation, but we just said it for the sake of argument. Acts exist by necessity. It necessarily exists, and whatever properties you see missing, yeah, they're missing because there's no inner rule that it was supposed to be in another way. It's in that way because it was supposed to be like that. Like it's necessary to be like that. And you're saying, oh, but this property is missing there. Who cares? You cannot say that it should have this one, this one, this one, this one. You can't say that. It exists like that. It's uncaused. Okay, that's enough to say that it's an uncaused cause. That's enough. If you say, oh, but like it's missing there, like you're saying that, like, okay, that person A like was first in the room, like the person B, because they entered, at the same time. But you're saying that, but that person A cannot speak English. Okay, so what? But still, it doesn't change the fact that he was in the room first.
Okay. But I don't know. I think the necessary being can exist without a cause. But
Yeah, it
limited
exists without a
properties
cause. Yeah.
But limited property cannot exist without a cause. There's a difference between an existence itself,
No,
so cannot be necessary, and cause. No external explanation is needed. Properties inside the being that limits boundary feature always requires an explanation and cannot be uncaused.
no, it doesn't. It doesn't require any explanation if you say that thing necessarily existing. So that's what it means, necessary existence, right?
No,
It
because
exists necessarily. That's period.
no, but the answer is why? Because limits are
What do you
specific,
mean
not
why?
general. Because limits are specific, right? Not general. So existence can simply be, but a specific limit requires some reason why if this and not that, right? For example, if something exists, fine, but if it has exactly 10 unit of power, not
Okay,
11,
then let me ask you this question: why God doesn't have titties?
why God doesn't have what?
Boobs.
Boobs?
Yeah.
But that's not his attribute.
Yeah, but that's missing then. Like, well, why? Like, so that means God is limited. That's what you're
No,
saying. What do you mean no? God
That's like
doesn't
saying
have boobs.
that's like saying that God created a tree. Why can he not be a tree?
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I said why God doesn't have
That's
boobs.
same thing.
It's not the same thing.
God
Don't
God
change my
created.
example. Why
No,
God
but they're the
doesn't
same
have
thing.
one thing that I want to see, okay? I want to see boobs on God, and God doesn't have it. I think that's
Yeah,
your belief, right? So that means
but
God is
but
missing
first cause.
boobs. That
No,
means the first cause missing
Depends on
boobs.
God. They need
So
depends
who
on God.
limited
but
God? Who limited God? Tell me why God doesn't have boobs. Who limited
because
God?
again, you need to understand the attribute. It's non-physical, immaterial,
Yeah,
not biological, not made of part, not dependent on anything, not capable of being a male or female in a biological
not
sense.
capable.
So the answer is simple. God has no body, no sex, no hormones, no physical form, therefore no boobs.
But
What
still,
is
that
so
means
hard?
that, yeah,
What
that
is so
means
hard
still
about understanding that?
nothing,
Just
nothing.
because
What is so hard about understanding that those are also missing things in your God? So your God had missing physicality according to your definition of God. So then who limits your God that your God doesn't have physicality?
but that's not the limit.
That's the limit. So you see, like you when we say X and Y, like you understand that they're different, but you're saying that those differences means they lack something. But your God also has like doesn't have something. Your God also lacks a lot of things that I can say right now, but you see it in another way. And when I ask the question, oh, okay, who limited your God? You don't accept that. If your God doesn't have physicality, that means, according to your understanding, not my understanding, according to your understanding, someone is limiting God.
No, because these
Yes.
are not the features of because these are physical features that are limitation, not power. So, for example, physical organ is made out of matter, bound to space, dependent on anatomy, requires energy, can be damaged, has a specific function, cannot do unlimited tasks. So, if God has physical organs, that would reduce him, not enhance him.
Uh,
How can because that
l-
is limiting him
limiting
by
him?
default by
No, it's not
God
limiting
by
him.
by because that's the argument of the first cause, that it is unnecessary, that is uncaused, it is necessary, is independent, is unlimited. So if you make him a human, you're limiting him.
Not
That's why we
making a
don't believe that God is
human. Like
because
no,
humans
no,
have
it doesn't. It doesn't make
limitations.
him human. Like God could be whatever you said. Plus, could have physicality. That's not a human. That's something very different. It's not a human. But God, your God is missing those properties. That means you just contradict yourself. Your God has limitations. That's why God missing those things.
No, man.
Yep.
You're no, you're talking about you're talking about physical things. We're saying the physical
Yep.
things has
Because
limits.
physical things have limits, but like there can your God could have unlimited physical features also, right?
Because they're limited properties. They're limiting property, not perfecting the property. So
Limited.
a limitation is not perfection. You're treating boobs, body, gender, or humanness as if they are power. They are not. So human body can get sick, needs food, depends on organs, occupy limited space, cannot be
Uh,
everywhere, ages
uh,
and dies. Humans form is weakness, not greatness. So God lacks these things for the same reason he lacks cancer, blindness, or skeleton. They are not perfection. They are imperfection.
so your
So
God
not having
your God
imperfection is not
can
a limitation.
so your God cannot have perfect boobs. That's what you're claiming.
You again, you're talking about human elements.
No, no,
Anything
perfect. There's no such a thing. Perfect boobs. Okay, so that's not a human thing. So, but you're
we are
still saying that your
saying
God cannot
God
have perfect boobs.
God cannot be a physical because physicality, parts, dependence, limitations. So if God has body,
Depend on
even a
what?
perfect body, even a
Depend on
perfect
what?
body,
Depend on what?
even a perfect body, it would have
Depend on
parts.
what? Depend on
It would be
what?
it would be
Guys, what the God are you
it
talking
would be
about? I'm
dependent.
really
It,
confused.
it,
Who is can be
it,
Depend
physical?
on what?
No.
it would be dependent
What
on
kind of
each
God?
other. It will parts be separated, parts can be damaged, parts have size and shapes, parts takes up space. So anything that is made of part is not necessary. It's not absolute, not eternal, dependent on composition. Therefore, it cannot be the first cause.
Okay, but like we didn't say that part is the first cause. The whole is the first cause, right? So why are you talking about that? So are you claiming that things which have parts or which we can describe in parts, we can separate?
Eh,
Hey, we can say, look at this part, this part, this part. So that means it cannot be uncaused.
Yeah, missing a perfection is a limitation, man. Missing a
Missing
weakness, not a
perfection.
limitation.
But there's no such a rule that the first causes must be perfect. Like you are making up rules without justifying.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. It has to be uncaused, right? It has to be independent. So
And
when you're
if
trying,
they're uncaused, that's enough to say that like it's
like,
uncaused. Being perfect, it's not a rule there. If something is not perfect, therefore it has a cause, doesn't follow logically. Welcome back, Alcaxi.
the first cause is, so when you say the first cause must be perfect because imperfection requires a cause, right? But
Imperfection requires a cause. No,
yeah, because imperfection means lacking power, lacking knowledge, having limits,
I
having
can.
weakness, having power, being changeable, being dependent. So if something has limited knowledge, we must ask why only this much and not more. If something has limited power, we must ask what restricted. Limit never exists without a cause because the first cause has no cause. So it cannot have imperfection that requires an explanation.
Cannot have imperfection because what?
It cannot have imperfection because that requires an explanation. Perfection
Oh,
is
okay.
independence.
But we
So
already explained that if it's not alone, then it can create the imperfection. We already explained that. if it's not alone, that other beings can cause the imperfection, but there are also uncaused things that exist, like that thing. We already figured that out.
You're saying the second uncaused cannot be alone, or what did you just say?
I said if there are many first causes, then that might be the answer for those limitations or imperfections.
But we just said there cannot be. There cannot be many first causes because of these
Was-
reasons.
What reasons again?
That the first cause it cannot be dependent. It has
Wait,
to be.
wait. It cannot be dependent. What do you mean dependent? It cannot be dependent. It exists without a cause that doesn't depend on anything. So it's independent when we talk about its existence.
Yeah.
The way that it exists, it's independent.
Yeah, because the first cause must be independent, because if it is dependent on anything else, then the other thing would be more fundamental, meaning
Okay,
that would
but
be the
again,
first
like,
cause.
so it like there can be 5 things that exist together. They don't have any cause to exist, so they're independent.
Did he prove there was a first cause?
No, he didn't prove.
But if they are all, if they all have same.
It seems like the first cause is the name of his God that he believes in. Really.
No. So if no, this is what the science says. Science says everything that has a
You
beginning,
have to
cause, and
prove there's
effect.
Concept similar to God, absolutely. Similar
No,
to
You have
God.
to prove there's a
if 5 things are
first
uncaused, then they all must be necessary being, right? An uncaused being means it has no beginning.
What's your
It can,
evidence? Hold on. What's your evidence there's a first cause?
because science says so. There's an explanation.
What scientific source says that?
Science supports the first cause theory. It doesn't directly say the first cause exists.
I'm asking you what does. What specifically?
Big Bang.
The Big Bang is just how far back we see. That's not indicative of a start.
Okay, so the Big Bang supports the first cause theory. The universe
No, the Big
expanding
Bang is
space.
the rapid expansion of space. That's it. Nothing else.
Right, but why does it exist? Right, that's the question.
Yeah, that's not a first cause then.
No, so everything that exists has a cause. You know that, right?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean there's not an infinite series of them.
Well, we know that it's not because of the. We know that infinity only exists in mathematics. It cannot exist in practicality. Therefore, that's an infinity regress.
That means it's logically possible then. Where's the contradiction?
I'm sorry. Say that again.
Yeah, it's logically possible for there to be an infinite series of contingent causes. Where's the contradiction?
That there has to be something that exists at the very beginning. If you're saying that, if I say you James,
There's no
let's say you,
beginning. There's no beginning. It's infinite.
right? That's what we are saying. That infinity cannot exist in practicality. There's a
Yeah,
beginning. We
what's your
know that.
argument?
We know that because of Big Bang theory that the universe began.
What's your argument for that? You're just repeating the claim.
That anything that begins has a cause. So we're
No,
saying that.
hold on. What's your argument? There can't be an infinite series of contingent causes.
What do you mean? We're saying that the infinity cannot exist in practicality.
I know why. Why?
Why cannot infinity exist?
Yeah.
Because if it was infinite, like so if something created something created created, then we will be in infinite regress forever. We will never reach this point.
I know. Where's the contradiction?
That there has to be a beginning, and therefore we are here, like that.
No, there's no beginning in an infinite series of things.
Right. But
It's like
we
a
know
number.
that. But we know that that's not correct. We know that
Think
is
of a
not correct.
think of a number line, right? You have an infinite amount of positive numbers and an infinite amount of negative numbers. Where's the beginning on the number line?
So infinite number, things exist, it cannot exist in reality, right? So that's the thing. So you know about the Hilbert Hotel theory?
An argument for that, right? You just keep saying that over and over again.
Say that again.
I said you keep repeating that, but you can't give an argument for that. Like you need, in order to say something's not logically possible, you have to point out a contradiction.
I'm gonna point it out. There's the Hilbert Hotel. Have you heard about the Hilbert Hotel theory?
Yeah, I've heard about it. Yeah. Where's the
Okay.
P and not?
Okay, so the thing is, he talks about how there's infinity number of guests and there are infinity number of hotel room, right? So all the
Yeah.
guests are in, and there are infinity number of room. What happened is that the 10 guests shows up, another 10 guests shows up, right? And
Yeah.
he
Infinite
is
rooms,
still
right?
he is still able to make the room for them.
That's
And
because there's infinite rooms, right?
say that again.
That's because there's infinite rooms.
Yeah. So there are infinity number of rooms and there are infinity number of guests, right? So then
Yeah.
what happened is,
I think there's an infinite number of rooms, eh?
and there are infinity number of guests. I don't know why you're not getting that part.
And where's the contradiction? Can you point out the P and not P?
Yeah. So the contradiction is how can it be empty and full at the same time? That is the logical contradiction. That's what says that infinity cannot exist in practicality. So if I
Yeah, what-
give you, if you have millions of dollars or you have infinity number amount of money, and I take something away from you, how can you have how can it be that I took something from you and not at the same time? So for example, infinity number of rooms and infinity number of hotels, if they are all there, how can the manager get those 10 people in? How can the rooms be empty and full at the same time? That is a logical contradiction.
Yeah, I don't. Where's the P and not P? What's the P and not P?
Say that again. What is the P and not P?
What's the proposition and the negation of the proposition? Go ahead.
Sorry, I don't understand the question.
In order for you to say something's impossible, or in order for you to point out a contradiction, right? You need to point out the P and not P.
Yeah, and I just gave you the explanation.
Well, you didn't point out the P and not P.
What is P and not P?
Like for instance, if I told you I'm a man and I'm not a man, that's a P and not P. Like if I were to say, right, there's an infinite series of contingent.
So P. Okay, so in logic, so P is a statement is that hotel is full, right?
Proposition and the negation of the proposition.
Right. Okay. So the P is a statement like the hotel is full. So there are more red balls than blue balls, right? And then not P is the negation that hotel is not full. So therefore, then the other explanation is there are not more red balls than blue balls, right? So that would be the P and not P. So you're saying the hotel is full, and then the not P is that hotel is not full. That is the logical contradiction.
Yeah. How can the hotel be full if there's an infinite amount of rooms?
That is the logical contradiction. The statement is true and false at the same
And
time.
that's
In
not
the
a
same sense.
contradiction. That's a question. You're claiming that there are infinite amount of rooms, but then you're saying that they're full.
Yes.
Okay, but
So
technically we cannot fill it, right? If there are infinite amount of rooms, but you're suggesting that they're full. You are creating the contradiction here by stating that they're full.
Yeah, they
right.
can't be full if it's
So if
actually
you're if you're saying there are infinite amount of guests and infinite amount of rooms, then you have 10 more guests that comes in, right? But
so
what I'm saying is, how can you?
that
Sorry,
would be
go
able
ahead.
to infinite amount of guests. You can't add the number 10 on top of infinity. Infinity is already infinity.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Your example, yeah, it's you're making an error though. You can't add infinity is already infinity. You can't add more to that.
That is the example. That is, you're exactly right. That is the proof that the infinity cannot exist because you cannot add to it, and you cannot subtract to it. So that's the idea of Hilbert theory. How can a whole hotel exist and not exist? So if you imagine, if there's infinitely many rooms, room 1, 2, 3, 4, all rooms are occupied, that hotel is full. So a new guest arrives, can we fit them in? And if you move the guest to room 1 to room 2, room 2 to 3, so that the hotel is full, but can still take more guests. So even more, you can check in the countability affinity guest thing, right? So these are the arguments that the infinity cannot exist. Yeah.
Right, yeah, you're just committing a category error because you're adding numbers to infinity. That's a category error.
Anyway, like that's a dead end as I see. Like probably, I mean, sure, like all the topics we have, they all have dead ends, but this one seems like even worse than the others. So let's bite the bullet. What was your name? James? No, I can't see.
James.
Yeah, James. So let's bite the bullet and let's agree that yeah, there's no infinite regress for the sake of
Yeah.
argument. Like what I was discussing before you joined here, still it doesn't solve any problem because still there are a lot of problems. You can't say that there's only one thing at the beginning, even if you claim that there's a beginning. What if there are infinite number of beginnings? That's another thing I can bring. Like I was just saying 2 things, 3 things, 10 things. But there can be infinite amount of things at the beginning, uncaused.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. If they all are same, then logically they collapsed into one.
No one said they're
They
all
all-
same. No one said
if they
they're all same.
Okay, if they are not the same, then there is a limitation, right? That's that, and then I
You
know
can't
that we
say
have a
that
difference. We have a
that's a
difference in
limitation.
yeah, we have a difference in what those limitations are. I think that's what you're saying, but yeah. So basically, the first cause is the uncaused is independent. It is necessary, and it is the reason why all things exist.
But you didn't justify that like an uncaused cause cannot be limited. Like you couldn't justify that part also. So like even if we accept that they have limitations, still it doesn't change the fact that they are uncaused causes. So other limitations that you're talking about are unnecessary to talk about because if we solve the problem of infinite regress by stating that there must be things at the beginning and that they must be uncaused. We solved that problem, and now you were saying, "Oh, but wait a second, I see some limitations in those things." Doesn't matter. I don't give a shit about those limitations because
Yeah,
like
but you
what
should
we
be able
need
to explain.
to
No,
exist. Well, I
if there
explain
is
because
limitation, if
the,
there's
the,
inner limitation, we need to know why they
it's it's
exist.
it's their nature. They exist like that. It's their own nature
We can say the
by
same thing about
default.
the universe. It is the universe, it is in nature that it exists, but that it
Sure,
doesn't answer the question. Yeah.
sure, we can say that. Yeah, sure, we can say that. But
Yeah,
like
but
it's answer that's the answer of the question you were saying. It doesn't answer the question. I don't understand why they exist like that. Because they're uncaused causes and they exist necessarily, and that's the way that they exist. That's all. Anyway, we're just circling around. If there's
yeah,
someone else
yeah,
wants to bring another topic,
yeah,
maybe
that's
let's don't bore other people more and more. We just repeat the same things.